Are you listening to us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or any other platform where you can leave a rate or review? Do you like what we're doing? If the answer to all of that is yes, please consider quickly giving us a 5-star rate. And if you wouldn't mind leaving us a nice review, we greatly appreciate that as well. Okay, let's do this. Hello, welcome to the Ghosts of Harrenhal. My name's Mackelly.
And I'm Jenny.
I almost said my name's Simon.
I thought about saying my name is Simon, but then I thought, nah, I'm not going to do it.
That would be false for both of us. Well, thank you all for joining us for episode 339 of our chapter-by-chapter book review of A Song of Ice and Fire by George R.R. Martin. Today, we're discussing chapter 67 of A Dance with Dragons. That is The Kingbreaker.
Ooh, I wonder who that is.
Yeah, we'll find out here.
We actually already know.
Yes, we do. We better by this point.
As always, we'll chat about the chapter and try not to spoil any future plot points for you. Unless you have a Buy Me a Coffee Sustainer tier that includes spoilers, then we will spoil everything for you. Regardless, hopefully we'll provide you with some entertainment along the way.
We'll summarize what happened, discuss our thoughts on it, provide some useful background, compare it to the TV show, indulge in a little pedantry, and cover some relevant news and listener correspondences. And be sure to check out our show notes. They provide some additional information about the characters and other things of note in the chapter. Jenny, how are you? It's good to see you.
It's good to see you. I'm glad that you're having me in before the end.
Yeah, it's really an odd sensation as we make our way down toward the end of dance here.
I bet everybody is feeling that way that listens.
Yeah, I guess so. It just feels like we had so long to go. Like we're at 6 3/4 years by the time we finish. It just seemed like, well, we've got plenty of time. We'll never run out. And now,
who would have thought that we've reached this point and still nothing?
Yeah. Well, there's still time. Maybe he can make a surprise announcement.
He can make it a surprise announcement this year.
Yeah.
The sweet summer children are all hoping.
Well, how was your Mother's Day, aside from busy? I know you said the second busiest day of the year work day of the year for you.
Yes, Valentine's and then Mother's Day. So it was crazy as usual. But my Sunday we were closed, so it was nice.
Okay.
Yeah. My story for today, I don't know if everybody will find it amusing, but I thought it was pretty amusing. My children played a little prank on me on Mother's Day. One of them kept me distracted in the kitchen, and the other ones hid 49 tiny yellow plastic ducks all around the house for me to find. They sent me on a duck hunt.
Oh, all right.
Yeah,
that's great.
So that was fun. They were everywhere, and a lot of places that I was not expecting. So, like in the egg, they managed to make it into the egg carton while I was in the kitchen.
Wow.
Definitely some interesting places. But my favorite one I left there. I collected all the others, the 48, found all of them, and then one of them was sitting on my 3D printed iron throne, and I left that one there, so he's the winner.
That's right. Well, that's a great place for the final one to be, right on the iron throne.
Yes. So anyone waiting for the ends of A Song of Ice and Fire, the duck won. So
I think George, there's a story about George. He created the concept of the Iron Throne from his little turtles, right? So
yes.
not too far off from turtles to ducks. They're both
aquatic,
Yeah, they both hang out in ponds and such and lakes. Well, that's good. That's really fun. That's a clever game for them to play. It's like a reverse Easter egg hunt.
Yes, it is. Yeah, they were all giggling because I was like, here's another one, So they were having a good time watching me, be surprised.
Oh, that's fun. We didn't do anything anything like that anyway. We did have fun, but we didn't hide any ducks for Stacy. I did pull a prank on her, though.
Oh, did you? What'd you do?
The kids were involved. So Ethan was supposed to fly to Boston and visit a friend of his, but convinced him at the last minute to fly home instead, and we did not tell Stacey. So but the problem was his flight didn't get in till 10:30 at night or so. And
what kind of excuse did you give to go get him?
Exactly. That was the problem. What was I going to possibly do? I have to go get milk. I'll be back at 10:30 at night. Yes. So Molly drove to the airport and picked him up. Yeah. She just said, friends of mine want to go hang out. I'll be gone for a little while. I'll
definitely makes more sense.
Yes. And Ethan, he's very much like Stacey. They're very like matter of fact. Surprises are not something that they really put much stock into, whereas Molly and I love a good surprise. Personally, I think a positive surprise is one of the most exciting things in people's lives. I
agree. I like them as well.
Yeah, if someone told you, "Oh, the Chiefs are going to win this game on a last-second, a scoop and score or something like that," you'd be like, "Oh, you know it's coming." But you're watching the game, and it happens, and it takes it to another level. So surprises they just enhance the experience. So I was really pushing for this, and Ethan was grumbling the whole way along, and we got him all
play along.
Yeah, he was like, "Well, no, this is so stupid. I don't know." And so Molly successfully brings him in, and Stacey's brushing her teeth and getting ready for bed. And so I have him waiting out in the hallway. I'm like, "Nope, stay. Don't move until I give you the signal." And I gave him the signal, and he came in, and she screamed. It was very exciting. It was very, very sexy.
Reaction you were looking for?
Exactly, yes.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then she turned around and played the same surprise on her mom. When we went
bringing him in?
Yeah, when we went to visit her for Mother's Day. So
nice.
Yes, it was a lot of fun. But on our way, so we dropped him off at the airport. What day is today? Yesterday. We dropped him off at the airport yesterday morning. And we had to stop at CVS on the way home. And CVS is at an intersection just down from my house. Mm. And so we went in, got whatever it was we needed, and we pull out, and I pulled out on the side road that intersects with the much bigger road. And there was traffic there, and I was like, why is there traffic here? It's back pretty far up. So whatever, I get in line at the back of the line of cars, and we sat there for probably 20 seconds before I realized it wasn't actually traffic. It was the church parking. There's a church right there, and they were parking on the street. And I was just sitting on the side of the road behind empty cars.
Oh,
and
no.
I was like, that's what I realized. When I realized there was no movement and nobody in the cars in front of me, I was like, oh, this isn't traffic. And Stacey was like, yeah, I realized that when you pulled in. I just wanted to see how long you were going to sit here.
Oh, that's kind of diabolical.
So we just sat behind parked cars for no reason for about 20 seconds.
I would have, 20 seconds is all right. I was going to say, I don't know if I would have had the patience for that. I would have said, hey, this is not the line.
Yeah, you know that these are parked cars, right? Yeah, had she been in more of a hurry, there would have been a few choice words used at my stupidity. So clearly she wasn't all that much of a hurry. So we had a good time. It was really great. It's really great to see him. He's off to Detroit. He's got an internship in Detroit, so he won't be back home at least until August. So it's good to have the family together for a few days.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah. Well, anyway, as Simon would say, let's get down to business. How did we leave Sir Barristan Selmy? For it is he who is the Kingbreaker, and we're about to find out why. But first, let's rehash where he was previously to this. So last we saw of Sir Barristan Selmy, he was attending King Hizdhar's court when members of the Yunkish contingent busted in and tossed the severed head of poor Admiral Grolio at the king. You see how I capitalized the P in poor. That is
poor. That is his title now.
Yes.
That's part of his.
Yeah. He's officially poor Admiral Grolio now. While King Hizdhar sat frozen on his throne, 3 other hostages were released. All 3 are members of the Hizdhar family. No, well, not the
That's
Hizdhar
not
family.
suspicious at all.
Right. Technically not the Hizdhar family. Of Hizdar's family, I guess I should have said. The Yunkai said that the other 3 hostages would be held until the 2 remaining dragons were killed. Hizdhar abruptly cleared court, and Barristan tracked down the Dornishmen who were also in attendance. He told the 3 men that they should return home, that it's not safe here, and that the king noticed them and did not look pleased. If the king wanted to, he could claim they were responsible for the poisoned locusts, and they'd have no friends around to dispute it. Jenny, why don't we give them the summary of this one?
All right. Sir Barristan Selmy and Skahaz Kandaq meet to discuss the coup they are planning, as they have clearly discussed before. Hizdahr is to be seized, and the city ruled by a council until Dany returns. Skahaz has chosen Grolio as the safe word, although we probably should have written poor Admiral Grolio there.
Yeah, it should be poor Admiral Grolio, not just Grolio, for sure.
That's the safe word for people who are complicit with the plan. Skahaz was present when the Yunkish slavers presented Grolio's head, and he claims Hizdahr's horror at the insult was false. The Yunkai don't care about Yurkaz Zoyunzak's death in the pit, and the whole scenario was just a farce to ensure the dragons were killed before the Volantis fleet arrives.
A recurring dispute arises between the 2 men over how the Yunkai are to be dealt with. Sir Barristan isn't willing to break the Queen's peace, but Skahaz would rather attack at first light. The fate of the remaining hostages is debated. Skahaz is uninterested in rescuing the other 3, especially Daario, while Sir Barristan argues their worth. Barristan privately agrees it would be better for Daario to die, but voices his objections aloud. Skahaz is equally dismissive of the hostages in their care as well.
Barristan spends the remainder of the day making his rounds of the pyramid, as he is no longer part of Hizdahr's council. Shocking. After ascertaining all the sentries are at their posts, Barristan trains with his orphans. He thinks a few of them may be ready for knighthood soon, but not today. Does that phrase sound familiar? Sir Barristan warns Missandei not to leave the Queen's chambers under any circumstances, but he will not answer her inquiries as to why. He reflects on his failures, thinking of his defeat at the tourney of Harrenhal in particular.
As night falls, Sir Barristan bathes and dons his armor before going to confront Hizdhar. He passes the Brazen Beasts without incident and gains entry to Hizdar's chambers under the pretext of delivering a message. He questions Hizdhar about whether he is allied with or leading the Sons of the Harpy, and his culpability regarding the failed assassination attempt against Dany. Hizdhar denies all accusations, but he fails to convince Barristan. As Sir Barristan draws his sword, Hizdhar calls for Kraz to defend him. Despite Barristan's attempts to convince Kraz to surrender, a battle ensues. Kraz's inexperience fighting adversaries wearing armor proves to be fatal.
Hizdhar begs Sir Barristan for his life. Barristan assures Hizdhar that he will be taken to a cell and imprisoned until Dany returns. He pledges his word as a knight that no harm will befall Hizdhar as long as he is innocent. A cupbearer returns and informs Hizdhar that Reznak needs to see him immediately. Sir Barristan is surprised by this news, since Skahaz was supposed to imprison Reznak as well until his loyalties were determined. He asks the boy why Hizdhar has been summoned. The boy informs them that the dragons have been loosed on the city.
Oh boy. We'll certainly get to that, but now we see what Barristan meant when he thought while talking to Quentyn, hopefully Hizdhar won't rule the city in a few days.
Yes, that suddenly makes sense now.
Yes. And there's a part in the discussion between Skahaz and Barristan where they were discussing a piece of the plan, and Skahaz said that was before Grolio's head. So clearly this has been in the works since before Grolio was decapitated.
Yes.
So, so it fits that would have been what he was thinking when he said he won't rule the city in a few days. So, what do you think? Was Hizdhar in on the return of the family member hostages? Or was it done to make him look like a complicit, untrustworthy leader?
I have a hard time deciding how I feel about that because I don't like him. So
Yeah.
I want him to be guilty, but there's a possibility he may not be, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, it worked on Skahaz. It
Yes.
was his primary evidence when he was trying to convince Sir Barristan that Hizdhar was working with the Yunkai to kill Dany and the dragons. But it's just such terrible optics to have poor Grolio's head be thrown at you, and then all 3 hostages that were of your family peacefully returned, all in one piece, and then the other 3 hostages still held.
It does
just doesn't
look a
good.
little fishy, yeah. There's a line in there in the first part of that chapter where Skahaz says something about, do you think that they would have presented Dany with Grolio's head?
Right.
And Barristan thinks, no, they wouldn't have done that.
Yeah, and I think that's true. Yeah, and Skahaz is absolutely convinced that the beheading of Grolio and the demands about the dragons had nothing to do with Yurkazo Yunzak's death. That it was just about an opportunity to extract a pound of flesh from Meereen in the form of dragon hides.
True. I kind of wonder how they decided on Grolio. Was it random? Or did they think that would be the least offensive?
Yeah.
You know?
Right. I think of the Dany hostages, sadly, he is the least. He had the least going on for him because he was an admiral with no ships.
Yeah, unfortunately for him.
Yeah, but you certainly hear in the chapter where Dany flew off on Drogon, you certainly heard Hizdhar shouting to kill Drogon, which is damning evidence as far as Sir Barristan is concerned. But really, it's not entirely unreasonable under the circumstances.
I mean, you're seeing a dragon, killing people. I don't think it's unreasonable that the person who's married to Dany, and she's, obviously right in the thick of it, he's going to say, kill that dragon that's killing people. You're not going to just sit there and be like, well, I'm going to watch this show. Right.
Yeah. So I do understand Barristan's point, but I'm not sure it is as damning as Barristan seems to believe that it is. But back to what you were asking just a minute ago about Grolio versus the other hostages. If Hizdhar was involved in choosing what hostages lived or died, why not let them kill his rival Daario first?
That's a good question. I was just going to say that if he had a choice, he would have picked Daario because he knows about Daario.
We'll be right back.
Hello, friends. Are you ready to make some unforgettable memories? Well, if so, consider the Marriott Bonvoy program. Discover the perfect destination for your summer getaway and unlock exclusive deals on luxurious accommodations. With our affiliate partnership, you'll enjoy unbeatable savings and a seamless booking experience. Don't let summer slip away. Visit Marriott Bonvoy today and make this vacation season one for the books. Use our Ghosts of Harrenhal affiliate page to check it all out and buy Bonvoy points or give some as a gift. The link to our page is in the show notes. Right. Yes, he makes it very clear at the end of the chapter when Barristan asks him, did you lust for the crown or did you love Daenerys? And he's like, you want to talk about lust?
Yes.
How about the way Daenerys lusted after that sellsword? That's lust.
The only thing I can think of is maybe they didn't let him pick. They were like, yeah, we'll kill one, but you don't get to pick which one.
Yes, that could be. But there is one line that Skahaz mentions that unnerves Barristan, and I do understand Barristan's feelings about this one. He says, don't forget the hour of the wolf. And Skahaz says, I'm not like to forget. Kandaq has waited a long time for this moment. So it sounds like there is some personal family history here between Kandaq and Loraq that Skahaz might be looking forward to playing out here, and that is a little bit disturbing. Being
you
that
do
a
have
lot
to
of
wonder, like you were saying, if that leans the other direction. Where what if Skahaz is just doing this because he wants to get rid of Hizdhar and company? You know?
Yes, exactly. Yes, Skahaz dredging up these falsehoods to frame Hizdahr, maybe. You know,
yes.
The story about the Hizdahr's confectioner being forced to poison a locust, that came from Skahaz. And maybe Skahaz could have been involved in the release of the Loraqs to make I don't know if they're all last name Loraq, but they're all of Hizdahr's family.
Yes.
Make him look complicit. So, it's possible. With that line, it made me think, oh boy, could Barristan, who's a pretty trustworthy guy, I mean, he's a pretty trusting guy, I should say. He might be being duped here.
I hope not. He kind of reminds you a little bit of Ned Stark, I think.
Yes.
And so
yes.
You're kind of hoping that the same sort of thing isn't happening here.
Yeah, I agree.
I do want to say that when they were very early on, when they were discussing their plan and Skahaz wanted to attack at first light, clearly they discussed this before, where he keeps saying, I want to attack, and Barristan saying, we discussed this, and that's not the way. He doesn't want to break the king's peace, or the queen's peace, I should say.
Queen's peace, as it were, yeah.
There we go, queen's peace. And there's a line in there that made me laugh when I was reading it again, because Barristan says, your way is dishonorable, and Skahaz says, your way is stupid. So it just...
such a profound retort. Well, your way is stupid.
Yes.
like he's a 5-year-old.
Yeah, I giggled a little bit reading that.
Yeah, me too. Oh, that's funny. But Barristan wants the hostages freed before the Yunkai can use them against him, which is reasonable. It's
reasonable, but how easy is it?
Yeah, right. I agree with Skahaz there. Easier said than done, you know? And then Skahaz points out that we've got hostages too, referring to the cupbearers. Was it 100? I can't remember exactly how many.
It's a lot.
There.
I think, yeah.
Maybe I'm confusing that with Jon.
Or something.
Jon got 100 hostages. Maybe Dany didn't get quite that many hostages.
She has several, though.
Yes. And I understand, of course I understand Barristan's hesitation to harm the children. But maybe here's the problem though, right? Yes, you could consider trading some. That's his proposal. No, yes. The children are off limits, which I totally get and would be in the same boat. But maybe we could trade some of the children for the 3 remaining hostages. But I think it boils down to whether the Yunkai believe the threat of killing the children to be real or not, whether they could be effective bargaining chips.
I wonder. Well, of course, Dany isn't here. She's gone. So they may be wondering a little bit more whether or not the hostages are safe. But I think when she was there, they probably knew that she wasn't going to be doing anything to those hostages.
Yes. That's true.
Not how she operates usually.
Right. Absolutely. She fell in love with them pretty much as soon as they got to her pyramid. But they're also, they're Meereenese children.
True.
So it's unclear if there's any association to the
children of the
nobles.
slavers, right?
Yes, the noble houses of Meereen.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a Yunkish army out there. So I don't know if they would be like, well, we don't care about those kids. They're not they're not members of our families.
Right.
That's something you guys need to deal with on the inside there.
You know what I was thinking, though, is when I was reading it, I was like, I bet Mackelly and I would be in the same boat there, sad sacks that we are, where you're not killing those children. But then Simon would be like, which of these children is the most annoying? How about that one and that one?
Barristan specifically references a lazy kid. Maybe,
yeah. Simon's like, that one's out of here.
Get the lazy one over here. I hope not, but yes,
No,
I did.
I'm kidding.
Yeah, I did figure you and I would be in the same line of thinking there. But so the other plan that Barristan comes up with is that we need to free, instead of trading the children for the 3 slaves, we need, or not the 3 slaves, the 3 hostages, we need to get someone to go in and free them. And he thinks about his time when he freed King Aerys from Duskendale, but it won't work because he sticks out like a sore thumb. He doesn't look Giscari in any way.
No, and he's got that armor on, and
right, he'd have to go without the armor for sure.
Yes, for sure.
And so he thinks, we need someone that could blend in with the Yunkish camp. And possibly this is an opportunity for the Second Sons to gain favor and get into the good graces of Dany's side. If Jorah and Tyrion can successfully convince the Second Sons that the Yunkai side is the losing side, problem is Barristan's got to know that to be able to go and have this kind of discussion,
Yes.
that they're a possibility. And being that they were the most recent sellsword company to turn their cloaks on Dany, he might not start with them.
Probably not.
So, but it would be, if he would think about, he doesn't know that Jorah and Tyrion are there, but if he would think to talk with the Second Sons, maybe they could help convince Brown Ben Plum to change sides.
Do you think Dany knows the history of the Second Sons?
Probably not fully. She knows that Miro was a pretty terrible guy, the previous commander of the Second Sons.
Yeah.
But I don't know that she knows back any further than that. Why do you ask specifically?
Well, the Second Sons had a lot of rivals for the Targaryens, didn't they?
Oh, true.
Blackfires.
Yes. Although Aerion Targaryen served as a second son.
That's
and
true.
He was an actual Targaryen. He was.
Yes. But they had a lot more Blackfires than they had Targaryens.
That is a good point to bring up. Yeah. Maybe if she did know that, she'd be like, that explains why they're so untrustworthy.
Yes. All right, so here's a question for you. Is Daario really a problem, do you think, as far as Dany having been in love with him? Because Barristan thinks that it would be best. He thinks this in his head. He doesn't say it aloud to Skahaz, because Skahaz wants to just let them all rot there. But Barristan thinks Daario would be better off dying so they can choose a new leader because of Dany.
Yeah, and then he runs through a list of royals who loved someone they shouldn't have and the problems that it caused for the realm. And it makes sense. I mean, he would have to trust. Okay, maybe he does trust that Dany would do the right thing in the end. But this would be one way to take the decision out of her hands.
That is true.
Let him die. He and Daario aren't exactly buddies.
I mean, I kind of think that she already has put him to the side because she married Hizdhar.
Yeah.
She chose to do that instead of...
She chose to do the right thing,
Yeah, and she hasn't had any other contact with him since then, right? I mean, I know he was taken for hostage pretty quickly afterwards, but...
Right.
Once she got married, she's like, I gotta be married now.
Right. And she's young. She's only going to get older and wiser, hopefully. So if she's making this decision now, then if she does ever get to Westeros, you would think she has already proven that she's willing to be selfless and put her love aside for the betterment of the realm. So, yeah, maybe he's not as big of a problem as Barristan concerns that he might be. But speaking of taboo love, turns out Barristan was in love with Ashara Dane.
Yeah, I want to know, though, if it would have made any difference if he had said anything.
Yeah.
I mean, what could they have done about it besides be like, oh, that's sweet.
Right.
Thanks for that.
And I agree. First of all, it's a little bit surprising. Obviously, I knew this was coming, but not knowing it's coming, it's a bit surprising since he's so married to his job. You know, and
yes.
But yeah, if Ashara had reciprocated, would he have broken his vows? He didn't ever have to be tested with that. But here's some stats I looked up. There's quite an age gap. First of all, a roughly 30-year age gap between.
I didn't realize it was that big.
Yeah. So the tournament at Harrenhal was roughly 19 years ago, which would have made him 44 because he's 63 now.
Oh, yeah.
And she would have been in her late teens, early 20-ish. And he took his Kingsguard vow at 23. So he had already been honoring his Kingsguard vow, as far as we know, for more than 20 years.
I guess I didn't think about that particular age timeline for both of them.
We'll be right back.
This episode is sponsored by Audible. To get a free audiobook, or 2 if you're an Amazon Prime member, go to our exclusive URL, audibletrial.com/ghostsharrenhal. You can find the link in our show notes. Yeah, because she's in roughly around the same age as Ned, and I thought, well, Ned was not nearly as old as Sir Barristan, so I went looking up there. It didn't seem possible that she could be in her late 50s, early 60s, like Barristan. So I was surprised to see that it was roughly 30-year age gap.
Wow. That kind of, I don't know. That surprises me a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. And, so I don't know, because he'd already been honoring, it's not like he was a new Kingsguard and this vow thing was still new to him. He 2 decades in, and he's been honoring it as far as we know. So,
well, from what we know from him, he's not an oath breaker. So it just makes me curious why he thought that and what he thought would happen if he did say something. Would he have been like, oh, we're going to run off now. Screw this.
Yeah.
Kingsguard.
I can't imagine that he would have, quite honestly.
I can't see him doing that.
I don't know how deep his love for Ashara was. Maybe it was so much so that he would have given up everything and run to Essos and been in exile for the rest of his life. But you had said something a little bit ago about how Ned and Barristan are kind of have some kinship as far as their personalities and their loyalties and what they find important. And I remember thinking at the time when I first read the scenes when Ned was at King's Landing as part of the Small Council, and I thought, why aren't Ned and Barristan closer? They both are so focused on honor and truth and integrity and all those things, and that kind of stands out in the Viper's Den of the Red Keep, let alone the Small Council. But we kind of get an answer here in this chapter as to why. I was going to
say, we just discussed the reason why.
Yes. So
but
he thinks that possibly Ashara took her life over the man who dishonored her at Harrenhal, who he believes to be Ned Stark.
Why do you think he believes it's Ned, though? I would think it would be more Brandon.
Maybe he saw Ned and Ashara dancing and
just assumed?
Just assumed that it was Ned. I think probably a lot of people. Now, we know that there's rumors around Winterfell that Ashara Dane is Jon Snow's mother. So, maybe that came from the same the same thought as people saw them dancing together. And even if it's untrue, Barristan believes it, and so likely it has colored his view of Ned Stark, and that's maybe why they weren't so chummy. And not that either of them ever would get chummy, but I can't imagine either of them kicking back together and letting their hair down a little bit. But
having a bowl of brown.
Yeah, exactly. Having a bowl of singer stew.
So, do you think if Selmy had won the tourney at Harrenhal, that war would have been avoided?
It would have had a better chance, certainly a better chance of being avoided. You can feel his guilt in this chapter, such guilt over not beating Rhaegar, because it was the final tilt. If he had just beaten Rhaegar, all the lives he would have saved, and that's understandable. And he's very capable. He's won so many victories, and one more might have changed everything. And getting slightly off topic here, but I did wonder, as a member of the Kingsguard, did he possibly lighten up a little bit on Rhaegar in that final tilt? Not ever assuming in a million years he's going to name someone other than his wife as the Queen of Love and Beauty.
Right. Yeah. Maybe he could have tried a little bit harder. But I do think that even though that could be possible, that scenario where he won and named somebody else and Lyanna would not have been possibly named as Queen of Love and Beauty. But the king was already having some mental issues.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Right.
So, that wasn't headed in a good direction.
True. And so there's a line in this chapter about how the king hadn't left the Red Keep since Barristan returned him from his capture at Duskendale.
Yes.
But Varys whispered in the king's ear about the tourney at Harrenhal, where it was believed that Rhaegar was going to try and meet with as many great lords as possible to see if he could get support in not overthrowing his father, but kind of pushing his father aside. So did Varys possibly have a larger role in the events of Robert's Rebellion? Possibly.
But do you think if for some reason he hadn't named Lyanna the Queen of Love and Beauty and he had named Elia, for instance, do you think that something bad still would have happened just because of the state of the king's mental?
Well, I think it could have gone one of two ways. Either Rhaegar could have tried again to get support, meet with many. Maybe he could have done one of those tours that the royals do sometimes, and met with a bunch of great lords that way. Or if he truly was in love or lusted after Lyanna, he might have pursued her anyway, just because he named her the Queen of Love and Beauty. If he didn't do that, it's not like, well, then there was no opportunity for him to abduct her. If he was going to abduct her, he could have done it one way or the other, and we would have still ended up where we ended up.
Good point.
But he mentions, Barristan mentions Ashara's stillborn daughter, and we, as I just mentioned a few minutes ago, we have heard the rumors that she is Jon Snow's son, not a daughter. So if truly she had a stillborn daughter, then that would rule her out as Jon Snow's mother.
Right.
So now I don't know how accurate his information is. If he truly loved her, maybe he was keeping tabs on her and heard this.
You have to wonder how good his information is. Like, how did he find out it was a daughter?
Right. So, yeah, that we've had several candidates. Willa, both Ned told Robert and Edric Dane told Arya that a serving woman in Starfall, where the Danes seat, named Willa, was Jon's mother. Godric Burrell told Davos that a fisherman's daughter that Ned met while traveling home from the Vale was Jon's mother. And then we've got these rumors about Ashara Dane. So maybe this rules Ashara out if Barristan's information is accurate.
That's true. I've already made up my mind about that situation, but I know a lot of people haven't. So It could rule her out if that information is true.
Yeah, it's just like George Martin to just keep throwing all these avenues that could possibly be true or false at us.
Yeah, regarding the coming to Kraz, who was Hizdahr's guard, he's a pit fighter. And Barristan isn't worried at all about facing the pit fighters because he thinks they're not really a threat as far as fighting people like him, I guess.
Yeah, in the circumstances in which he plans to fight him. Yeah, he mentions that when you're in the pit fighting, there's a clear beginning and end to a threat. The foe is presented to you, and the foe is vanquished, and that's it. Then you just go about your life. Whereas, as a Kingsguard, you spend about 1 hour of every 10,000 hours fighting, and the other 10,000 hours, you're just watching patiently, waiting, keeping your eyes peeled, staying focused for something to happen because you don't necessarily know who the threat to the king or queen might be. And that these fighters are already bored and starting to lounge about. And
well, not to mention that in Essos in particular, not a lot of any of the fighters wear any kind of armor.
Yeah, that's true. And that makes me think about Viserys' plan. Well, it was bigger than Viserys, but the plan to have Khal Drogo's Dothraki Khalasar come to Westeros and help claim the throne for the Targaryens. Because, as you just said, they're not used to necessarily fighting people wearing armor. I wonder if that would throw them.
Maybe he thought he had the numbers.
Yes. He had a big Khalasar, 40,000, I think.
Yeah, yes.
So, maybe. But I just thought that when he's talking about how they're not used to fighting people wearing armor, and that the arak is meant to be used on a horse. It's a slasher's blade, not a dueling blade. And I guess that's great while you're on the horse, but if you get knocked off your horse, maybe you're a little more in trouble.
Yeah, depends on how well the armored people are against mounted foes.
Yeah, of course they'd have most of them would have horses as well, but you'd have to imagine the Dothraki are better at fighting on horse than anyone else in the world. And so Barristan wins. There's a fight breaks out, and Barristan wins because, just like he guessed, Kraz kept hitting him. Well, not kept, but a few times did manage to get the arak on him, but it just glanced off of his armor, and it was making Kraz angry. And then, because the sword is so big and cumbersome, it got caught in the drapery, and that's how Barristan managed to finish the battle. And I enjoyed watching. I mean, I don't necessarily like watching people be killed, but I enjoyed watching Barristan at work because his dominance as a fighter has kind of always fascinated me. Because whereas Jaime's greatness went to his head, and pre-Brienne, pre-one-handed Jaime, he was just so arrogant and self-sure. But Barristan's always remained respectful and honor-driven, despite being one of the greatest swordsmen in Westeros, possibly the history of Westeros.
I think that he's confident in that he was like, I'm not worried about that. But he doesn't think about it like Jaime would.
Yes.
Like, he's not like, I'm going to wipe the floor with that guy.
Right. When Skahaz says, oh, it's Krasnak, that concerns me, Barristan says, don't worry about Kraz.
About Kraz,
Did I say Krasnak?
You did.
I say Krasnak? Oh,
you did.
Kraz, whatever.
Kraz, Krasnak. All these names are so similar.
Right. I guess, demeanor, his low-key confidence, I just love it. It's one of the things, one of my favorites athletes of all time is Larry Fitzgerald, who is a wide receiver at the University of Pittsburgh, which is, obviously very near and dear to my heart. but also a longtime wide receiver for the Arizona Cardinals. And I don't really care at all, one way or the other, about the Arizona Cardinals, except for when we beat them in the Super Bowl, which was then I cared very much about them and him. But anyway, he just had such a demeanor of respect and low-key confidence without being arrogant or brash. And I think I just really respect that type of demeanor from a great.
Well, tying into that, he also tried to give Kraz an out and told him he could go if he was, don't interfere. You can go now. I don't have a problem with you.
Yeah, right.
So he tried to let him go, and Kraz was like, "No, we're gonna do this."
I'm pretty sure Kraz thought this was not going to be much of a competition.
Yeah, well, because they all call him Sir Grandfather. They think he's too old. Yeah,
when Steelskin meets him at the door, he calls him Old Sir.
Yes.
Old Sir.
Yes.
You'll see. You'll see
Yes.
who's Old Sir.
Do you think Resnick can be trusted?
No, personally, I don't.
I don't think he can either.
Yeah, there's a line from Skahaz where Barristan asks him, "So you say you have spies in the Yunkish camp?" And he said, "I have some, but Resnick has more." And Barristan thinks Resnick can't be trusted. He smells too sweet and feels too foul.
Well, we do have that line that Dany was fed from Quaithe.
Yes, that's exactly.
We don't know for sure if it's him or not, but it fits here.
Yeah, beware the perfumed seneschal. Do you think that thought by Barristan makes Resnick the leading contender over Varys, Ilario, someone from the Selesori Quran, which means stinky steward?
Well, that's the thing about Martin here. It ties back into all these little hints he tries to give at multiple things. I think,
Yep.
Who's Jon's mother? Could be any of these people. Who's the perfume seneschal? Could be any of these people.
Right. That's the beauty of his work. I think Resnick is going to go with whichever way the wind is blowing.
Most likely.
When Dany was in control, he was her guy. Hizdahr's in control, he's his guy. Third person's in control, he's that person's guy.
Do you think that will turn out okay? Or he was supposed to be imprisoned, it says in this chapter.
Yeah, and that's kind of one of the last lines of the chapter is Barristan thinking, wait, Resnick is calling for Hizdahr? Resnick's supposed to be in prison right now. Yeah, if he's not, sure, that could be problematic. Resnick has a lot of influence. He knows a lot of people. Obviously, he's got a lot of spies, and he's very Varys-like.
He is.
Maybe that's what Quaithe meant. Don't trust any of those people. Don't trust
any. Maybe it wasn't just one. It was any of them.
Right. Yeah, any of those perfume seneschals. But yeah, that could be a problem. It was a very small line, but sometimes that's how...
That's how he gets you.
Yeah, he bubbles things up from very little seeds. But Barristan is... He kind of way he blows off steam is he goes and trains with the boys that he's been training to be knights. And he thinks that some are actually getting close to being ready to being knighted. And he actually thinks maybe I should knight some before I end up either dead and imprisoned. And then he thinks better, no, that might just bring shame upon them. So I'm not going to do that if I end up imprisoned. But there was one knight, or I guess not knight, one squire who intrigued me the most. And that was the Red Lamb.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember?
I do.
Yeah, because the Lazarene are peaceful people. That's why they call
that
them Lamb
interested
men.
me when I saw that, because I was like, I thought they weren't really... I guess if they were attacked, maybe they would try to defend themselves, but not to the point where they would end up a squire here like that with the Unsullied.
Right, yeah. Now we're painting with a broad brush that every Lazarene person is peaceful,
I guess
everyone's their own individual person, but I did just find it I find it surprising that one of someone that he describes, as Barristan describes, as fighting with pure ferocity seems a bit out of character for his Lazarene heritage.
Yes. Well, I guess they can't all be that way.
Yeah, right. And then he preaches to these boys about knighthood and the chivalry and the philosophy of knighthood, and dying with honor over living without it. And the boys are a little bit confused about that, but he thinks they'll get it eventually. And I wondered, could Meereen become a satellite location for Westerosi chivalry here on the far side of the known world?
I don't know that it would catch on there like it has in Westeros.
Agreed, yes. I think it would take Dany returning and remaining in power for there to be any chance.
Without her there, I think that they'd be like, that's like Skahaz said when they were arguing about the plan. Your way is stupid.
Yeah, right. That's being chivalrous is stupid. I'd rather live without honor than die with it.
Okay, so when Barristan was questioning Hizdhar about whether or not he was the Harpy, he brought up the locusts that he urged Dany to try, and he did end up blaming it on the Dornishmen, particularly Quentyn. Yep.
Just like Barristan told Quentyn he could do if the king chose to do. So, and later he blames Daario. Maybe it was Daario that did it. And Barristan's like, Dario's a killer, but he's not a poisoner.
Like I said, I know we debated whether or not Hizdhar was what he's doing, if he's in on that or not. We have a person in my house who lives here called Not Me.
Not Me. That's a good name.
Yeah.
I'm thinking I'm picking up on why that name exists.
That kind of reminds me of that.
Right, yeah. Yeah, and Barristan supplies him with all the evidence. It was your box, your seats, your wine, your melons, your figs, your locusts. And you're the one that urged Dany to try the locusts, but you never touched one. And then you shouted, kill Drogon. He lays it all out. And then he asks the primary question that we've asked plenty of times here on this show. He says something about the Sons of the Harpy being your friends. And Hizdhar says, the Sons of the Harpy aren't my friends. And Barristan says, oh yeah? Well then why did they stop killing when you told them to stop killing? And Hizdhar has no answer. And I thought, what a time for him not to have an answer. Like,
he should have thought of an answer for that.
Yeah.
That, to me, is kind of the most... Some of this is kind of circumstantial, you know?
Yeah, right.
You can see why it sounds like it makes a good case, but you could still debate it the other way. But that one right there with why did they stop killing, that one really stops you thinking, you know, well, why no answer there? Why did they stop killing?
Right. He could have. It wouldn't have been that hard to make something up, though.
Right.
Like,
yeah, he should
because
have thought
I'm
about
a nobleman of Meereen, and with me by Dany's side, the nobles were willing to give this a shot. You know,
exactly.
Something like that. He had no. I guess it was the middle of the night, so maybe his brain was.
Well, still, he's
on
pretty
all cylinders.
smooth of tongue most of the time.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So you would think he would be like, "Ooh, I better answer that one."
Right. Yeah, he had answers for who poisoned the locust. Oh, it was Quentyn. Oh, maybe it was Daario. Why did they stop killing when you told them to? Got nothing. I got nothing. Come on, man. You should have had an answer ready for that one. But the chapter ends with dragons on the loose. And we know that Quentyn planned to steal a dragon, so maybe either things have gone really well or really poorly for Quentyn.
Yeah, I guess we do have a couple more chapters here where we'll find out what happens.
Yeah.
But
Resnack's report didn't mention if there was a man on the back of one of those dragons.
It didn't. It just said dragons are loose. Could have been a rider on them. Depends on how high they were flying, too.
Right, yeah. But regardless of whether Quentyn's involved or how it went for him, could this be a good thing for Meereen and Dany, the dragons being freed?
That depends on whether or not they prefer to eat people, I think.
Yeah. Well, they prefer to eat people outside of the walls or inside of the walls.
Yes.
But
I mean, I don't know. Do they know the difference at this point?
I'm guessing they probably don't.
Inside people good, outside people bad.
Right. If you could just get that one lesson across.
Just stand there and point. Yes. No.
Yes, right. No. If you can just do that one thing. But last chapter we saw how just the sighting of Drogon affected the Yunkish host. And we'll seeing 2 more maybe just crush the Yunkish morale. It's already so low with the Pale Mare running rampant through the camp. And now you've got dragons flying around.
I know Drogon is the biggest one, and he was big enough to ride. I can't remember exactly how big the other 2 are. Do you, at this point?
Probably not big enough to ride, especially from a full-grown male like Quentyn, would be my guess. Mm-hmm. Because you're right, Drogon was the biggest, and he probably outweighs Dany by a significant amount. So maybe if he was able to ride one of them, it would only be like 20 feet off the ground. It would be more like hopping, or as Buzz Lightyear said, or I think it was Woody said about Buzz Lightyear's flying, was falling with style or something like that. But I just wondered if maybe these dragons being loose, because remember Brown Ben left Dany's side because she said the dragons were off the table. Well, if dragons are flying around, maybe this will win the second sons back to Dany's cause, like Tyrion and Jorah are hoping to do.
You have to wonder. I know we have a little bit of evidence of dragons being killed with Aegon's sister wife, because she died in Dorne with her dragon.
Yeah,
but I still think it has to be pretty hard to kill a flying dragon.
Agreed. I think the only thing that would be different here is the youth. Maybe their scales aren't quite as hard as...
True. That's, that could be possible.
As Meraxes was. Yeah. That. Although it went through Meraxes' eye, right?
I think so. I think they got him in the brain.
Yeah, really. And that's the one weak spot on a dragon is the eye, I believe.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, I think that does it for our discussion. Shall we do some spoilers?
Yes.
All right. Well, if you're interested in listening to these spoilers, the upper tiers of the Buy Me a Coffee sustainer levels get you the spoilers, and you can subscribe to any of the tiers for a week for free and see if you like it. All right. Well, excellent spoilers, Jenny.
Thank you.
Well done. All right, now I will give some background. How about that? And this chapter was the rare goldmine chapter as far as background options. I could have talked about Barristan's exploits in Duskendale to rescue King Aerys, which we have talked about in the past. I could have talked about Ashara Dane and her sad fate, or any of the other lovers that Barristan references when thinking of how a romantic choice can have disastrous effects on the larger realm. However, being that Jenny is here with me, talking about the Prince of Dragonfly's decision to give up the crown for his love seemed like fate calling. I was
actually really thrilled with your background choice. So
all right, good. I almost texted you and said, there's so many. And I was like, no, there's one. There's really just one.
It is the way.
Yes. So first off, who is the Prince of Dragonflies? Well, that would be our old buddy Aegon V, or Eggs, firstborn son and heir, Prince Duncan, likely named after his father's best friend, Sir Duncan the Tall. Well, Duncan the Small, as he was known, was betrothed to the daughter of Lord Lionel Baratheon of Storm's End. And those of you who have watched the first season of A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms might remember Lionel the Laughing Storm. He was quite the character on the show. Anyway, all was good and happy until one day when Duncan was traveling through the Riverlands and met who is described as a strange, lovely, and mysterious peasant woman named
Jenny of Old Stones.
That's right. You see now why I said it was fate and there was really only one option. Now nobody but the young couple was happy. And despite his parents, the High Septon, and even the Grand Maester all saying that he must marry his betrothed, Duncan wasn't having it. Ultimately, the Prince of Dragonstone abdicated the crown in favor of his younger brother Jaehaerys. That's when people dubbed Duncan the Prince of Dragonflies. However, things didn't improve after that move. Lord Lionel was so angry about Duncan rejecting his daughter that he named himself the Storm King and cut ties with the Iron Throne, which, of course, led to a rebellion. That rebellion was finally squashed when Sir Duncan the Tall defeated his friend Lord Lionel in single combat, and Egg agreed to betroth his daughter Rhaelle to Lionel's heir. Eventually, thankfully, Jenny was accepted at court and called by the name Lady Jenny. And just as a quick aside here, Barristan mentioned just last chapter that it was last Barristan chapter, I should be more clear there, that it was Prince Duncan who named him Barristan the Bold, after Duncan defeated a 10-year-old Barristan in a tilt at the tourney at Blackhaven.
I had forgotten that part about him naming him, so...
Yeah, so it a little bit came full circle there.
Yeah. I don't know if you remember or not, but Simon and I kind of touched on that whole story with Jenny of Old Stones and Prince Duncan, and I think he based it off another one of England's real life stories.
Yeah.
Because the recent Queen Elizabeth, I know she passed a few years ago, but her father was not the first king in line. Yeah. His older brother abdicated the throne for a woman. So I think he based it off of that.
Yeah, that could be. That makes sense.
Yeah, so Simon did comparison with the TV show. So thanks for that, Simon.
Yes, thank you. I have absolutely no idea how he does it. I don't know if he just watches the show, like hours of the show every week. I have no idea.
Is he reading a recap somewhere and he's like, good enough?
Yeah, I really don't know. So I was glad when he agreed to do this. Anyway, proceed.
What Simon says is that he searched high and low for something comparable. The problem in the TV show is that both Barristan and Hizdhar are dead before Drogon and Dany fly off.
That is a problem with this chapter.
A little bit of a problem. So, the post-Dany power vacuum is filled by Jorah, Tyrion, Daario, Grey Worm, and Missandei, which I have to say was not my favorite part of the show.
Yeah, that felt like, all right, we've already got these named, known characters.
We're just going to shove them in here and...
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't my favorite.
Give them something to do. Yeah.
Anyway, no need for Dany loyalists to plot against anyone. They just were waiting for her to come back.
Okay. Yeah, a lot of Barristan's storyline was completely dropped pretty much once he revealed himself to be Barristan. I don't even remember. Was he Arstan Whitebeard in the TV show? I don't even remember if that's how that went.
No, they didn't. They didn't call him that. No.
Okay. I haven't watched the TV show since we started this podcast, so it's been almost about 6.5 years since I've seen an episode.
Yeah, I haven't watched it since then either.
So Pedantry Corner, no, we're not going to do we don't do Pedantry Corner on episodes when Jenny is here. So
actually, I'm going to surprise you just a little bit. I don't know if I'm necessarily going to call it pedantry, but I am going to bring it up in the very
Simon, do you hear this? Jenny's got pedantry.
I know. It made me pause for a minute. I did move on quickly, but it did make me, it threw me a minute. In the very beginning of this chapter, when they were talking about whether or not they would have shown Grolio's head to Dany and so on, and he said that why wouldn't they kill Dany's pets? And he called the dragons pets. And I kind of have a little bit of a problem calling the dragons pets. I don't know what they'd be classified as, but
yeah, pets.
I feel like there should be a word in between pets and, Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes, yeah, pets is a bit of a stretch.
It's like you found a dog in Flea Bottom and there you've chained that up down there, you know? And,
right,
yeah. Dany's little pets.
Yeah, these are one of the most magical, dangerous things in the known world. It's like having an other down there. Be like, yeah, your pets, you know, your other pets.
Yeah. Did you notice that as you were reading it all, or? I
didn't until you just said it right now. The one thing I noticed, which I wasn't going to bring up because we don't normally do pedantry on Jenny chapters, is when he's telling Skahaz, don't forget, Hour of the Wolf, the darkest, deepest part of the night. And he thinks to himself, the first time I heard that was from Tywin, when he told me, I've got until the Hour of the Wolf to get the king out of Duskendale, or he's going in, not guns a-blazing, but with sword and blood. And I thought, did Tywin coin the phrase Hour of the Wolf as the first time you'd ever heard that?
I'm pretty sure that's been around.
Yeah, I wouldn't imagine. Because he would have called it the Hour of the Lion, maybe, not the Hour of the Wolf.
Maybe,
so
yeah.
I just thought that I know he was probably saying, like, the last time the Hour of the Wolf was really important to me was this. You know, it reminds me of that what Tywin said to me. But his phrasing, the first time I heard that, I was like, I don't know that that's true. So anyway, I wasn't going to bring it up. I wasn't, but I will now anyway. All right. So news and notes. And I just have to say, listen up, all you serious A Song of Ice and Fire collectors out there, because we've got a possible crown jewel of your collection coming. In honor of the 30th anniversary of the release of A Game of Thrones, the Folio Society is releasing a special single-volume edition of A Song of Ice and Fire. But the convenience of having all the books in one book isn't where they stopped. This book features what they call dragon leather binding, gold-gilded pages, and special artwork. And the book comes inside a white clamshell box covered in gold foil with artwork of dragons and house sigils and all that cool stuff. Now, only 1,000 of these limited editions will be produced, and each will have its limit label blocked in real gold. And each book will also be signed by George Martin himself. Now, I say serious collectors because this book carries a serious price tag. The book will retail for $2,200 US. And sales do begin on July 14th, 2026. So, if you are looking for the crown jewel of your A Song of Ice and Fire collection, maybe that's it.
Mackelly, I don't know what you're talking about. I ordered 4 for friends and family.
Well, that's how you roll. You know, that's that. I don't have that kind of Jenny of Old Stone's money. I can't be throwing around that kind of money on such books.
That is quite a price tag.
It sure is.
All right. Also, don't forget that we've opened our GOH merchandise store to celebrate the stretch run as they finish up Dance with Dragons. So check it all out at ghostsofharrenhal.threadless.com. I have many things from the site, and I recommend them all.
Oh, that's good to hear. And you can get a one-of-a-kind Jenny of Old Stone's designed shirt on our merchandise site. So I urge you to go check that out. It's very cool.
Thanks.
Jenny has that. I know you have that shirt.
I do have that shirt. Yep, I've got several of the shirts. So I think I have 4 different designs.
Awesome. Well, so all you out there listening, go check it out. And we'll keep it up and running for a while. So go check it out. Do you want to read the review?
Sure. Are we calling this person who left us this lovely review Mr. Ride Boy?
I guess
or
so.
RDE
Mr.
Boy.
RDE Boy. We'll go with Ride Boy.
Okay. Anyway, he's coming to us from Apple Podcasts UK, so thank you for that. And he says,
Absolutely.
It's the perfect walking podcast. I picked this podcast up a few weeks ago and today finished the Game of Thrones episodes, so looking forward to more with A Clash of Kings. A lot of my commute involves walking to work, and so putting this on is perfect for filling that time. I'm currently halfway through the first read of A Dance with Dragons and looking forward to hearing your thoughts on it and other books sometime in December at this rate. So,
all right. Excellent.
That's
well,
great to hear.
Absolutely. Mr. Rideboy, we will, you'll hear this in December, hopefully, when you're nearing the end of our thoughts on A Dance with Dragons. So thank you. Thank you very much. We're always so appreciative when people take the time to give us a 5-star rating and leave us a positive review like that. It really means so much.
I'm going to tell you, since we're almost done here, somewhere out there is a review that I made after I very first started listening. And you guys have never found it, so I don't know where it is, but it's out there somewhere. Yeah.
It's on some...
It was on Podchaser.
We've never read it?
Nope.
I'm going to have to go find it. Did you name yourself?
I can't remember now. That was a long time ago. That was probably about 6 years ago or so.
Well, my apologies that we've never read your review. What an oversight. I feel terrible. I'm going to have to go digging for that.
Maybe it's lost in the interwebs.
I guess. Well, Rideboy and Jenny, both, thank you very much. We do greatly appreciate that. All right, Simon's going to be irked that we've been going on as long as we have, so let's wrap this up. Let's draw some conclusions. So Barristan is firmly in bed with Skahaz, which is not, like earlier I said, I thought Ned and Barristan would make a good duo. Barristan and Skahaz, I never would have together.
Definitely not have put them in bed together.
But Skahaz does seem to truly be a Dany supporter. Although that bit about Kandaq has waited a long time, that's sort of troubling.
It is.
So, yeah.
It kind of niggles at you where you're like, well, is he?
Yeah.
Isn't he?
Yeah. Is there any chance that Skahaz is behind the poisoning, trying to frame Hizdhar? I don't know.
You think he would risk that? If she actually did eat one, was he willing to risk Dany?
That is true. I could see more of him trying to convince the Yunkish nobles to free the Loraq family members to make Hizdhar look complicit, more than being the one that poisons Dany. Would he be willing to kill Dany to make Hizdhar look bad? I don't know about that. That's a good point. Yeah. There's plenty of evidence against Hizdhar. He did encourage Dany to eat the locusts.
He did.
Shouted killing Drogon. I don't find either of those the smoking gun.
I don't either. Like I said, I think that's pretty
sword.
circumstantial if we were actually putting him on trial.
Yes, agreed. Telling the Sons of the Harpy to stop killing, and they do. That's a more compelling.
And then they start again.
Yeah, are they going to start up?
Yeah.
We'll have to see if they'll start up now that Barristan said we're going to, after we once we take Hizdhar, we're going to convene a council and we'll tell the city what we did and why. We'll have to see whether the city is going to, how they'll handle that.
Yes. All right. So as Barristan is walking Hizdhar out, he's thinking about what it was to be a king's guard, and he asks himself, what am I now? And I think that all of his actions are going to weigh heavily on him.
Yeah. Especially if no hard evidence against Hizdhar presents itself.
Yeah.
He did say he wanted to interview that confectioner that poisoned the locusts. It's unclear. Do you recall whether he did that or not?
I don't recall. I don't think it was mentioned again.
Yeah, me either. I don't think so. So we don't know if maybe he interviewed the confectioner and got information that he finds reliable and trustworthy. We don't know. It's not said again. But who is going to lead Meereen now? He said he's going to convene the council, but someone has to kind of lead that council as well. Is it going to be Barristan, you think?
It could be. I mean, I think he was closest to Dany as far as any of her advisors, for sure. Since Jorah is not there.
Right. I don't think he will want the job. He does
no.
not. That's not him.
Uh-uh.
Be out on the front like that. And you could feel his reluctance in this chapter. He didn't want to be doing what he was doing.
He didn't.
He couldn't find a way to make it honorable. He kept trying in his head and failing to figure out how to make this honorable. And that's really all he cares about. So yeah, we'll have to see. Someone's got to lead the city, especially since they're on the brink of war again and in a fragile peace situation. But Viserion and Rhaegal are free. How's this going to change things?
Well, I mean, even if they're not big enough to ride, they're dangerous.
Yes.
I mean, they're still fire-breathing dragons. And,
Right.
Probably fairly quick.
Yeah, almost certainly big enough to eat a human.
Yes,
kill. Certainly
I think
big enough
so.
to kill a human.
Kill a human, for sure. Yeah. So, I mean, I can see how that would be scary.
Oh, absolutely.
It just goes back to that, do they know who the foes are?
Right. Unlikely. Now, we didn't, like we said, Quentin planned to steal one, so maybe he's either been incredibly successful and he's flying around on the back of one of these dragons, or it didn't go how he planned and
maybe they got away.
They snuck out. Yeah, right.
They're like, oh, door's open. Time for a walk.
Right, who's going to stop them?
Oh, darn it, the dragons got out.
Skahaz did say that the Yunkai wanted the dragons dead before the Volantene fleet arrived. Well, it's hard to kill it's much harder to kill them now than when they were held.
They're
captive
definitely going to have a
in the
much
dungeon.
tougher chore doing that, especially since they're at the top of a pyramid. You're going to have to figure out.
Yeah.
Are they
we'll see how
up
that
there?
goes.
Can you get up all those stairs without them flying off?
Right.
Just
it's
really a problem.
a lot more moving parts this way. And that could present trouble for the Ironborn because they're coming in on a fleet. Let's say it was the Volantene fleet, but the dragons don't know whether they're friend or foe.
Yeah, boats
in
are
fact,
pretty
the people
flammable.
of Meereen don't. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. They could be very vulnerable to such a situation. And but might their presence somehow in some way draw Drogon back to the city, wherever he and Dany are?
Maybe. I mean, I don't know if they're linked somehow and he can tell that they're out.
Right, yeah.
Or, I don't know, maybe they have super dragon hearing. I have no idea.
Yeah, I doubt they're in earshot or eyesight, so it would have to be some sort of special connection, I guess, that they would have to have, which we aren't aware of, but maybe we'll have to see. But in the meantime, up next, we have a chapter called The Dragon Tamer.
That sounds exciting.
It really does, and it doesn't sound like we have to wait very long to find out how it went for Quentin.
Yeah.
Unless there's someone else who's trying to tame a dragon as well.
I imagine it takes a lot of courage to go down there and try to do that.
Yeah. I know he wants to make his father proud and wants to come through for Dorne, but this might be pushing it a little too far here.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. Well, anyway, there's currently 4 ways that you can help us. You can leave us a 5-star rating and a positive review, as Mr. Rideboy did. You can buy us a cup of Arbor Gold at buymeacoffee.com/ghostharrenhal, or you can join any of the various sustainer levels. There's a tier to match your budget and interest. And of course, you can try any of the tiers for free for a week. And currently, you can buy some Ghosts of Harrenhal merchandise at ghostsofharrenhal.threadless.com, or you could just make a donation directly at our website, ghostsofharrenhal.buzzsprout.com.
If you're looking for more ways to interact with us, one thing you can do is send us a text. The link is at the top of every episode's show notes. Just keep in mind we have no means of responding, but we do love reading them. If you're interested in keeping up on the latest GOH news and developments, you can check us out on our social media. You can follow us on Twitter at Ghost Harrenhal. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Discord, and YouTube.
Jenny, thank you so much. I had such a wonderful time.
I did too.
I'm so glad we got to have you on before we ran out of runway here.
Yes, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And thank you all for listening.
And thank you to all the listeners for listening to me.
Bye.
Bye.